How's it going, everybody? Brad Dillenberg, and for my presentation, I'm going to be talking about time under tension. So start off with, what is time under tension? Time under tension, or TUT, as it's commonly referred to, is defined as how long a muscle is under strain or how long it is resisting the weight during each set of a workout. For an average lifter, a typical 10 rep set might take them anywhere between 15 and 25 seconds to complete, depending on the type of exercise they are performing and, obviously how fast or slow they decide to move through it. Calculating TUT is actually pretty simple. So if you want to calculate the TUT for one 10 rep set of bicep curls, and you take 1 second to raise the weight and 2 seconds for the lowering portion of the weight, you get a total of 3 seconds for that one rep. So if you perform those 10 reps all the same, 3 times the 10 is going to get you a total TUT of 30 seconds for that rep, for that set. So how does it work? It's really no different than how your body will normally grow and repair muscle. Your body goes through a cellular process where it will fuse back together damaged or torn muscle fibers from exercising, weightlifting, whatever it may be. These repaired fibers will continue to increase in thickness and number to create hypertrophy or growth. And basically, the more stress you put your muscles under, ideally, the more damage they will become and the more they're going to grow. So, the harder you make them work, the more you force them to work, the more damage will occur, and the stronger they will be when your body repairs them back together. So, what will I benefit from TUT? Kind of like I just kind of touched on a little bit, a greater metabolic response. So, the more time under tension you put on the muscle, the more growth hormone will be released. It can also jumpstart your metabolism. So, the harder you make your muscles work, the more micro tears will occur, therefore expending more calories for recovery, post-workout. And then a higher fatigue capacity. So, the more you deplete the muscle's resources, the more they're going to adjust and then adapt. So in the future, if you go back to that amount of weight, or if you go back to, the time you were, holding or lifting that amount of weight, you're going to be able to do it, and then you're going to be able to do more and more on top of that as they continue to grow. So, TUT from a professional standpoint. Video I found, his name is Matt Schafferl. He is a professional calisthenics certification instructor. He's a fitness YouTuber and founder of the Red Delta Project. He's a pretty interesting guy, often referred to as the Fit Rebel, as he does not lift weights, he doesn't stretch, he doesn't do cardio or follow like a 100% clean, healthy diet when it comes to his, regimen and his workout routine. He has also been called the greatest living expert in bodyweight bodybuilding, because most of the time, if you ever see him or if you check him out, he's just going to use his body and he's just going to use the things around him. So let's start the video.
I refer to time under tension quite frequently in my videos because it's the principle governing the stimulus for your ability to build muscle from your workouts. But whenever I refer to it, I inevitably get emails and questions from people saying, okay, time under tension, does that mean I don't count reps and I use a stopwatch, or I go really slow? How do I apply this? Well, here's the thing. It's not a method. It's not an application. What it is a principle upon which you base your decisions off of, that you can figure out how to build your workouts to better stimulate your muscle growth. Here's why this works, okay? So your muscles, for all the complicated ways that we can program workouts, there's actually only two variables that you have at your disposal. There's the amount of tension in the muscle, and then there's the amount of time that tension is on for, because your muscle fibers have only two settings. There's off and there's on. That's it. Those are the only two things you have at your disposal, and when it's on, it's, okay, how long is it on for? It doesn't matter why the tension is there. It doesn't matter what exercises you're doing. It doesn't matter what tools you're using. It doesn't matter what program you're using, and none of that stuff matters unless it's either changing how much tension is in the muscle and how long the tension is there for. Those are the only two variables you should really concern you with when building muscle is your focal point. Now, the reason why this works for building muscle is because you're building muscle, the size of your muscle is in relation to the total caloric energy within the muscle, to put it simply, as Paul Waite talks about in convict conditioning. When you contract a muscle, it's kind of like you've got an energy level like a battery, and it starts draining down. Now, the more tension that's in the muscle, the more motor units you're recruiting, the more fibers that are firing, so the faster that battery drains down, if you will. That's why if you do a harder exercise, you can't do it as much before you get tired. You're draining this same amount of energy faster. If you're holding the tension for a longer period of time, you're taking that energy and you're draining it down further. Now, when you want to build muscle, you want to basically fatigue that muscle. You want to bring it to a high level of exhaustion, and then when it's building itself back up, it says, well, we kind of ran out of juice quite quickly there. Let's put back a little bit more than we had before, and that makes your muscle just a little bit bigger through supercompensation. You repeat this sort of thing over weeks, months, and years, and you get jacked. So time under tension isn't a method. It's simply the principle saying, okay, how do I work out so I have more tension in the muscle, or how do I work out so I have the same amount of tension for a longer period of time? Over the long run, you're going to use both through double progression. You're going to take a certain amount of tension, grow the amount of time it's under, then increase the tension, grow the time there. Tension, growth. And that's how we get to we can barely do 10 push-ups to 100 one-arm push-ups. And your muscle growth and strength will grow because of it. More information here. Thoughts down below. Be fit, live free.
Alright, so pretty cool guy. The one part of the video that I kind of wanted to focus on or talk about next is the part where he talks about you have two things in control or in play when it comes to working out. The type, or like the amount of tension on the muscle, and then the time that tension is on the muscle. So I think what he's kind of referring to, or what he's kind of hinting at, would be the two types of muscle fibers we have in our body, which are type 1 and type 2. Duncan talks about this a little bit in his modality presentation. Shout out my boy. And so we have two types. Type 1, known as slow contracting or slow twitch muscle fibers, and then we have type 2, known as fast contracting or fast twitched muscle fibers. So type 1, they're muscle fibers that are made up of large and numerous amounts of mitochondria, which are perfect for oxygen metabolism. This plays into the fact that they are pretty much fatigue resistant. They can support weight for an extended period of time. However, it's a rather low amount. And then type 2, these possess a high level of ATPase, and they have calcium, and they have a high calcium release rate. So these are your explosive short burst muscles for explosive training or weightlifting or things along that nature. So just a little bit more on these muscle fibers. Type 1, you can train these and work these with lighter loads, roughly 50% of your 1 rep max, with a long time under tension is going to give you the highest hypertrophy or growth of these indefatigable slow twitch muscle fibers. And then for type 2, you're going to want to work with heavier loads, roughly 80% of your 1 rep max, to get the highest hypertrophy for these explosive fast twitch muscle fibers. So, we got time under tension, we got a good baseline of what it is, we got how does it work with the two different types of muscle fibers. So, how can you incorporate this? How can you make sure you're doing it the right way? What do you do now? Well, luckily for you, I'm going to tell you. So, things to look for when you're trying to incorporate time under tension. Number 1, beware of the lockout. I see it all the time in the gym. People, they will spend long amounts of time in the easiest portion of an exercise, which, they might be thinking, or it might just be easier, and they're just trying to catch their breath, get a little rest. When it comes to, keeping the muscle under tension, that's the wrong kind of tension we're talking about. An example of the bench press. You'll see people lock out at the top, hold the weight at the top, just kind of wait a little bit and then finally go back at it. Well, the longer they wait, when they finally go down, it's going to be even harder to get that weight back up. If they were going to wait and they were going to put the right amount of tension on the chest, you want to hold it at the bottom, right above the chest, and really get the squeeze and make the muscles expand. So yeah, the lockout. Second, keep a steady tempo. Each rep in your set, you should ideally have a consistent and similar tempo throughout, so that way you just keep a good pace and you make sure you're working the muscle the same each rep. A good tempo that I try to follow sometimes would be 2-4-0, lifting, lowering, pausing respectively. That one you can kind of take in consideration of the bench press again. So, if you got the bar up and, well, actually we'll start with if it's at the bottom, it's going to take 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi to lift, a 0 for the pause, and then 4 seconds back down. Or the squat, for example, lifting up 2 seconds up, 4 seconds down, however you want to, put it into play. A greater focus on the eccentric portion of the movement. This one especially you see in the gym. So as we've learned, eccentric refers to the lowering portion of most lifts, and the muscle is elongating. So slowing this down is going to cause more muscle damage and therefore greater growth. So like especially in or bicep curls, for example. If you might see a lot of people, they might do bicep curls and they might grab the dumbbells and they'll just fire through them as fast as they can and just like, up and down, up and down, up and down. You're really not going to get much out of that, in my opinion. When I do curls, for example, I like to just take them and then get a slow raise up, a nice squeeze at the top, really turn it and really press the bicep, and then just a nice slow gradual release down to really just like stretch out that bicep and really force it to tear and to hold that weight for that amount of time. Number 4, form is of foremost importance. This is probably my biggest pet peeve when it comes to the gym. I have a pretty bad habit of being a people watcher, and especially in the gym, that'll take place. I always just love and always find myself just being distracted on people, watching their form. How do they set up before a set? What do they do after? What do they do in between? So obviously with like time under tension and working towards that, to fully fatigue your muscles, your form's gonna become compromised. So when you're using TUT, you want to make sure that you're avoiding form breakdown and partial reps. If you need help, get through it and get help. Don't just do like half a rep because you're not going to get it by yourself. There's no shame in getting half a rep or failing if you have somebody there spotting you, because you're exhausting the muscle and that's the whole point. Number 5, drop sets are your friend. Drop sets can help you if you're struggling in the last few reps and you want to finish without cheating. So kind of just along like the same partial rep thing. If you have, if you're doing bench and you're trying to get a set of 6 for whatever weight, and you get the 4th one a little bit, it's a little hard, and then you get that 5th one, and then you for the life of you can't get that 6th. That's fine. Drop a little bit weight off and try to get that whole 6 without stopping, without cheating, and then it's really gonna pay off for you. And then lastly, we have maintain the intensity. So the weight needs to be heavy enough to cause muscle fatigue towards the end of the set. So they recommend you use at least 60% of your 1 rep max for best results. And that's really important because a lot of the time they'll get through a set, and even if it's like the start of the whatever exercise they're doing, or even at the end, like 4 or 5 sets in, if you bust out 8 and you rack that weight by yourself and you get up and you feel like you're perfectly fine, you're not fatigued at all, you're probably not going heavy enough. So you want to be aware of that. These are my references, and that was time under tension. Thanks for watching.